Flight attendants of Reddit, what's the worst attempt at joining the Mile High Club that you've seen? Hi Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will upload Tom and Jerry videos. Once I was flying from NY to Vegas to meet up with some friends and there was a guy next to me who was clearly pretty interested in chatting. So we had a very generic small talk conversation and then I started watching a movie. Mid-movie I had to use the bathroom, so I asked if I could get past him. He said something and gestured what I thought meant oh want me to move and I just was doing my not actually listening and yeah I have to get past. He walks out into the aisle so I can get out of our row, but he is between me and the nearest bathroom, so I move a step or two down the aisle so he can get back into our row of seats, but instead he starts walking toward the bathroom, and I thought well fine, I guess he will go to the other one since both vacant signs are lit up. But then he walks just past the bathrooms and doesn't try and open either of them, but oh well, I have to pee. So I go in. And within a few seconds someone seems to be trying to open the door. I say just a minute or something, it jiggles a few more times, and then I hear the guy from the seat next to me voice something like let me know when you are ready or something. Anyhow I finish up and open the door and he's standing right in front of it and starts trying to get in, so I just squeeze past him and have to push him a bit and run back to my seat. He comes back too and sits right back next to me, and we both sit in silence for the remainder of the flight. This is a great story. I am feeling the awkward thousands of miles away. I've been a flight attendant for 3 years and I've never caught anyone. I did have a co-worker tell me she had 2 people in first class during sleep time with all the lights off, having Shreks in one of their seats. That seems like the best way to do it. I flew from Hong Kong to UK during night time. Plane was quarter full. Whole rows at back empty and everyone was asleep. You could have easily shagged on that plane without anyone knowing. I'm guessing you wanked one off, as is tradition. There seems to be a lack of flight attendants in this sub, so I'll chime in to help my co-workers. Couple gets on the plane in high spirits and make themselves comfortable in the last row of the plane, where out galley is. Myself and the other FA don't think much about it and go about our business. After service is done we stow the carts and I noticed that there was a jacket covering the guy, and the lady was half under it. He was in the aisle seat and she was by the window. Should point out now this was not a full flight. I'm tapping the other FA on the shoulder and whisper, is this really happening? The lady's hands were clearly in his pants and the guy reclined his chair all the way to enjoy what was happening. We had thought about getting them to stop, but were too uncomfortable to start a conversation and they weren't making, well, any noise, as well as we figured if the guy was gonna nut it was gonna be in his jacket. So, we went back to doing our jobs. Guess what was stuck on the window after the flight? Spoilers, it was gum, but the initial scare got us good. Older lady invited me to his club. I'm not a flight attendant, but my 2 friends got pretty smashed before their flight. My buddy put one of Kate's rings on his finger claiming they just got engaged in order to argue his way to sitting next to her. Kate heads to the bathroom as soon as the seatbelt signs off and 1 minute later I see my buddy, Mike, making moves to the back. 14 rows away from the back of the plane all we heard was, knock knock yo, Kate, let me the frick in. It didn't work out for him, but it was a hell of an effort. We're all Mike today. Not a flight attendant, but I was recently on a flight where 2 people made it obvious that they were trying to do the nasty. The bathroom on the airplane was extremely small and unfortunately the couple was more on the bigger side. They tried to both squeeze into a bathroom not so quietly and it failed as they couldn't get the door to even close. The bathroom on the airplane was extremely small. You don't say. That's what has always confused me about the activity. I don't like being in there by myself, let alone with someone else and then getting active. Just an observer, but I saw the guy getting a handy under a sweatshirt. Does that count? At what altitude? It was at cruising altitude, so 31,000 feet sharing. It was from Detroit to Seattle. 5.8 Mile High Club. 5.8712121212 Mile High Club. My mate had a wank in the toilet before the plane took off. Does that count? Hijacking. Skyjacking. I was on a flight maybe a decade ago during spring break, so lots of college students on my plane. It was a large plane with a middle row with 3 seats. I was to the left and sitting on my right was a male army bro in his early 20s, and to his right a college-aged lady. They get to talking. She is obviously flirting with him. He is talking about his army training. It's not captivating at all, but they have chemistry. I watch a forgettable movie and disregard their conversation. About 2 hours and I start to hear makeout sounds next to me. I'm not gonna hate they can have their fun, but it escalates. I start to hear her moaning and he quite obviously is fingering her aggressively. No shame at all. I feel a bit like the third wheel, so I went to the lavatory to give them privacy. After returning to my seat, it was apparent he had done a good job, and as we deplaned it was clear they were going to find the closest private space to finish the tryst. At least OP wasn't trapped between them and the window. At least OP wasn't in the middle seat. Too bad OP wasn't in the middle seat. Fix that for you. I'm not a flight attendant, but I once walked to the back of the plane when I was like 10 to take a piss. My family and I were coming back from Disneyland to Chicago, and I was mostly just bored because of the long flight. The bathroom sign said vacant, so I just opened the door not expecting anyone to be in there. I walked in on like an 80-year-old couple doing something weird. Apparently they forgot to lock the door. I was so shocked and embarrassed that I didn't even know what to say. I just stood there frozen in the doorway and said nothing. The old lady slammed the door shut, and I just walked back to my seat. I was really young and didn't really understand Shreks yet, so this didn't click in my mind until a couple years later. They were either having some fun or helping each other go to the bathroom. I don't even really know what I saw, but it wasn't pretty. When you're that old, they are both really the same. To be fair, 10-year-olds are usually pretty shoot at judging the ages of an adult. They could have easily been in their 50s or 60s, and to a 10-year-old he paints it as 80. Flight attendant here. As a guy was walking off the plane, he looked me straight in the eye and asked, who do I talk to about joining the Mile High Club? My reply, don't be that guy. Nobody likes that guy. Wait, why would he ask that if he was getting off the plane? It sounds like he was making a joke that he had Shreks on the flight and was pretending there was an actual club for it. Or maybe he was feigning ignorance and pretending that he thought the club was just for going on a flight. I live in Denver, and I've had Shreks here. Does that count for the Mile High Club? Depends. Many parts of Denver are just below 5,280 featuring, so make sure you are freaking high enough. Yeah, you basically have to be above the purple seats at a Rockies game to really be sure. I promise, in Denver there are plenty of other ways to be sure you're high enough. He just sat in the bathroom, said getting a woman back there was half the battle, and that his way was like lambs to the slaughter. Ah, the tale of Dr. Mantis to Bagjan. I inverted the bird and landed her in a field. Recently flew across the US. First class. How the hell can someone fit 2 people in those restrooms? It's like a third of the size of a Johnny on the spot. I'd barely have enough room to sit, let alone invite another person. You can only fit if one person's dong is all the way in another person's ass. Gives you just enough space. Which is funny, because after going through a thorough TSA inspection, you feel like you've already been fricked in the ass. A bit late to this, but my laddie friend is a flight attendant. Her best story is when the offending couple came out of the bathroom, they were presented with a first-time Mile High Club certificate signed by the whole flight crew, including the pilots. It was drawn on one of the first-time certificates given to little kids, and they crossed out a few words with crayon and wrote in Mile High Club instead of first-time flyer. The couple were suitably embarrassed. When I was a teen I heard a couple having Shreks in a disabled stall in a bathroom at the beach. I ran back to tell my friends. I was at a big social meet. About 20 people went to stand outside the toilet block. 5 minutes later we hear hooting, cheering, clapping, and then dead silence. The guy had walked out first to much applause and mock celebration. Then the girl walked out and everyone recognized her as the girlfriend of someone in our group. He was still on the beach. That made everything awkward. He was still on the beach. Just wondering what he must have been thinking. What, there's actually people banging in the bathroom? No, that's alright, you guys go and see. I'll stay here and wait for my girlfriend. She said she was going to pee like 15 minutes ago, the same time Dave said he had to go. Must be washing her hands real good. Not a flight attendant, but had a guy next to me join the Mile High Club solo an hour into a 13-hour flight. I was going to take a sleeping pill, but I stayed bug-eyed awake the whole freaking time. The worst part was he used the arm closest to me. Listen buddy, I get it. We all have our kinks and fetishes, but some are just crossing the line. So if you're going to have the audacity to jerk off right next to me, please for the love of God, jerk me off too. I have never had as much sympathy for a person as I do for URN. I had anal shreks in an airport bathroom once. Doesn't count. I still share it. It was hot. Can we please have more details? Yeah, thanks for asking. Before leaving my hometown from visiting my parents, my wife and I decided to get butt plugs at a Shrek's shop. Long story short, my sweet, innocent newly married to me wife decided that we should have a tradition of wearing butt plugs in airports and flights. This came from a story I told her of an old girl FWB I had who used to do the same thing. I don't know why, but she loved the idea and we got some. I don't even think we had done anal yet by that point. Maybe once. Anyway, we get past security and take turns with the coconut oil in the tiny Tupperware container we had. We got it past security because it was like -15 degrees outside and very hard. We each go into the regular bathrooms and take turns putting them in. We come out and SN word to ourselves about our secret. Our flight wasn't for a little while and wouldn't you know it, they got very uncomfortable after a little bit. We didn't buy small ones. They were glass and probably about the size of a golf ball. After a little longer we go to a nearly empty wing and find a freshly cleaned family bathroom. The lady cleaning had just put away the black closed trip. We go in to take them out together. Once she pulled hers out I pushed her over the sink and eased my dong in there. It was the first time I remember fricking her in front of a mirror, so that was hot. We went at it for maybe 2 minutes before I came in her ass. 10 out of 10. Just for your information, the newer security scanners can absolutely see the butt plug. That's why they waited till after security. Smart folks. Okay Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will upload Tom and Jerry videos.